Great news, everybody. We already have reports of snow coming down. How cool is that? Snow coming down in places like Chihuahua, Cheney, Airway Heights. Not yet in Spokane. We are under that weather impact alert for some of the impacts of that snow. Once again, I think this is more of it's the first time we're seeing it for impacts instead of it's a big snow. I always kind of downplay this one because I think people just tend to freak out, and then freaking out makes it worse, and it just winds up always being worse than it should be. But let's dive into this forecast, because right now in downtown, you look close and nothing. On radar, we're starting to see some of that rain move in. You can see snow on a camera like this, even this late at night. We just aren't seeing it just yet. It's 5:35 officially. Up in the mountains, a different story. Snow has been coming down for a good chunk of the day in the Cascades. Snoqualmie Pass, Stevens Pass, already recording a few inches. Stevens Pass was closed earlier today due to an accident from one of the cars slipping out on the snow. 3 to 6 inches on the roads for 4th of July Pass. It's about a 2 to 4 situation, 4th of July and Lookout Pass. 4th of July is obviously going to be in the 2-inch realm. 4th of July, Lookout Pass, I keep mixing those up in my brain. Lookout Pass is going to be much closer to that 4 inches of snow by the time it ends tomorrow morning. When it comes to the mountain passes, Lookout still dry. Sherman Pass getting snow right now. We talked about Stevens and all that snow. Snoqualmie, things are moving pretty good, but snow is even sticking to the roads. It's just that little bit of a dip in temperatures. I was looking at webcams all around the region. Central Washington coming down as rain, not really doing much. Places like Airway Heights right now are seeing snowflakes, but that snow is melting as it falls. Leavenworth has inches of snow on the ground, so it's all about how this plays out. Remember yesterday we talked a lot about the warm air advection coming in from off the coast. Right now, we're starting to pull in cold as everything just dips down from the north. So look, there's almost a northwesterly aspect to our round of moisture moving in. Goes northwesterly, and that's what gives us that cold to get the snow. Remember, forecast models are exceptionally bad at this. For the past few days, we've looked at snow, and you would say, okay, a lot of people have been saying snow. I never really felt confident about that, if I'm honest. Reason being, we just were missing a lot of the elements until we get this big cold air injection. Half the forecast model said, yeah, it's rain for Spokane. And we are even seeing some of that come down as rain in Spokane. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and clear up some of that. There we go. This looks much better in terms of what we can see on radar. It's moving in. There is a big dry air plume. Remember, if we go back to this, you can see this big dry air plume chasing in some of this moisture. That's why we dry out so handily tomorrow morning. Right now, starting to fill in that moisture quite quickly. Here we go. Let's just zoom in. Actually, let's clean up this as well and switch over to this radar. That's where we're seeing a lot of that activity. Notice it's still coming down pretty good. Central Washington, it looks like Ritzville, starting to make that transition over from rain to snow. That is as we pull in some of that cold. You go off to the north, you quickly find yourself in some of that snow. I think if you're driving from Ritzville to Spokane, by Sprague, you're seeing snow. Up in Davenport, it's coming down as snow. Notice what happens, though, as we move up to the north. By Cheney, it's snow. Spokane, South Hill, it's a snow-rain mix right now. Downtown, a little bit of light rain. Up in Deer Park's coming down as snow. Reports out of Chihuahua that it's coming down as snow. But notice if we zoom in, let's see if we can get Chihuahua to pop up. All right, following it all the way to the north. There it is, Chihuahua, drying out. That's what I wanted to show you. A little bit of snow came down there in Chihuahua, drying out just a little. So it's really about watching where this is going and how much we're seeing. Out in Liberty Lake, still coming down as rain. Coeur d'Alene coming down as rain as well right now. And that's what we are going to keep a close eye on, because everything's filling in. However, temperatures are just trending a little bit warm. I think it is worth exploring some of those temperatures because they're playing a huge role in what we wind up seeing right now. A lot of us are right around or right above freezing. Take a look at Sandpoint, 32, Deer Park, 34. Spokane, Coeur d'Alene, sitting at 35, but if we go in and we take a deep dive into those localized temperatures, 35 is out at the airport. You get into downtown, about 38 or even 39 if you make your way out toward Phelps Field. That is why we are melting some of that snow as it falls into rain. That rain sitting down in those low elevation areas is what's causing everything to just stay a little bit warmer. We are eventually going to see cooling. Let's talk some of that cooling, because as all of this snow fills in, and remember that cold air injection we talked about a little bit earlier, that is going to cause rain to transition into snow. We knew this would happen to an extent yesterday. It just didn't look to the same extent that we're seeing now. Notice 7 o'clock hour, so hour and a half from now, we're already starting to see some of what falls make that transition into more snow. You fast forward to about 9, should be falling as snow pretty much everywhere. Once again, Steptoe winds at that cutoff. Highway 2 likely in the snow, Coeur d'Alene in the snow. You make your way up towards Sandpoint. I think it is coming down as snow. The warm lake waters up there on Pend d'Oreille will likely have some of what falls in parts of the area just melting as fast as it does. This is a very, very, very micro scale and microclimate forecast. There are going to be big changes just a few miles apart based on topography and water. It's seriously going to come down to little mountains and hills and water with this event. Comes down pretty good through about 9 p.m. and notice it just starts to lighten up a little by about midnight. The difference between 9 p.m. and midnight isn't going to be precipitation type, it's going to be precipitation intensity. Remember, we have that drier air starting to filter its way in. So by tomorrow morning, it just tapers off. It's a good steady taper off between midnight and tomorrow morning. We start to see everything taper off through tomorrow morning, and a good chunk of the day tomorrow winds up very dry. Then we start to see that next push in, and that's going to be all rain up to about 4,000 feet. It's a big, big change from Wednesday morning to Wednesday night in terms of temperatures and precipitation. Check this out. Here in town, I think it's a slushy bit of a mix. Coeur d'Alene, it's a similar story. We're just a little too low. Deer Park, Sandpoint might get some of its stick, less than an inch. I think most places are less than an inch unless you get up to, say, Lookout Pass or Snoqualmie Pass. You're on the 3 to 6 for Snoqualmie. I think Lookout Pass will change you to 2 to 4. So let me just go ahead and update some of these numbers. This is that live TV thing, even though we're live streaming. The reason is, by the time I show you this at 6 o'clock on the actual news, I'm just going to have these numbers on here so you get a first-hand account of just changing them. This is through Wednesday morning. So instead of just saying through Wednesday, we'll say through Wednesday AM. Boom. That way you know that, there we go. Sometimes it's hard to spell when you're making graphics. You might have noticed a misspelling or two. I apologize for that. It does happen. Now, let's take it from that rain that hits Wednesday night through Thursday morning. Once again, it all comes down to that cutoff. Deer Park, Sandpoint, likely going to see a little bit more snow as we move from Wednesday night to Thursday morning. Rain continues to come down in places like Spokane and Coeur d'Alene, down across the Palouse, Central Washington if you see it, the Okanagan Valley. Remember, this is a very temperature and elevation dependent system. We move through Thursday, and then on the backside of this, we see a bit of a shift. Friday is going to bring about scattered showers, but notice this. It's a big push of colder air moving into much of the region. That colder air that starts to move in will eventually cool us down. I'm just trying to find a graphic here. Sometimes when those graphics go hiding, it's difficult to get them. So let's try to figure this out. Stick with me here. Here we go. This is after Thanksgiving week. I couldn't find the actual graphic, so I don't have the ability to change it. So ignore the banner that says Thanksgiving week on this. And it looks like after Thanksgiving, that cold air starts to slowly work its way out. A lot of what we're seeing there is just next week, but we cool down Friday, Saturday, Sunday after a relatively warm Thanksgiving. Reason being, we're pulling in a lot of cold air from up to the north. So the next few days actually wind up our warmest in the next week, week and a half. Thanksgiving, 40 degrees and rain. More scattered showers for us in Spokane, but it is likely going to be a little bit wetter and warmer. You head up to the north, comes down to snow. Places that are already seeing snow fall and maybe even stick a little bit, that's where you're going to see snow on, say, Thanksgiving Day. That would be the Leavenworth. Deer Park might be your cutoff. I think you just head north of Deer Park. You are back in the snow. Hopefully Chihuahua gets it, Sandpoint gets it. North of there, you wind up seeing snow. South of there, I do think we wind up being on the rain side of things. One last look at radar, and then I'll let you go. Thank you for giving me your time, but here we go. Wide picture, you can see all of our moisture moving in. You can also see some of it eroding away up near Chihuahua and starting to find some pockets of that moisture just to the west of Spokane. It does look like we are starting to eat away at some of that. I do think we wind up hanging on to it for a bit longer. A lot of that activity down in south central Washington still coming down as rain in places like Moses Lake, Othello, Ritzville, right along that edge. It was rain earlier, starting to make that transition over towards snow. You move up into Spokane, you get up along 395, Highway 2. As soon as you get north of the Y, you're starting to make that transition. Sure, it's a few miles, but you get north of the Y, you start to find that cooler air, and that's where you're seeing things change. Coeur d'Alene starting to fill in, look a little bit different. Here in downtown, notice a break in that moisture. We can probably see it here if we go on to our outdoor cam. Let's see if we can pull it up. Not really seeing anything come down here in downtown. I have not been out on the back patio, but I'll make my way out there, and you can tune in for KREM 2 News at 6, and I'll show you a live look at what it's coming down like on the South Hill. Weather impact alert runs through tomorrow morning. Snow tonight turns to rain tomorrow night. Tomorrow night into Thanksgiving, we wind up seeing more rain, scattered showers on Thanksgiving. Highs near the 40-degree mark the next few days. That keeps what falls as rain. But then as we get to the weekend, remember we're pulling in that cold air. Temperatures trend much, much cooler. That's the 30s, overnight lows in the 20s. And by then, that's average. That's December. We're supposed to be that cold in December, and we're already supposed to have recorded our first snowfall of the season. And if you're going, well, is this record territory for first snowfall for the latest one? No. Unfortunately, it is not even close. We've seen snow as late as January here in Spokane. But the next few days, we wind up seeing a bit of everything, and we're going to keep watching the radar and letting you know when that snow starts to stick.